What are the different cannabinoids and how do they affect your body differently and different people differently? There's over 100 plus distinct cannabinoids have been isolated from cannabis plants. Cannabinoids interact with your CB1 and CB2 receptors that are all throughout your body and affect your appetite, your blood pressure, body temperature, energy, heart rate, immune response, inflammation, memory, mood, muscle control, pain response, sleep, thirst. So what is CBD and what does all this mean? And how do cannabinoids that are available and how do they affect people? Cannabinoids are neuroprotectants. They're neurotransmitters that regulate and enhance our neurological signaling. CBD is known for having pain relieving, anxiety, anti-depressant, neuroprotectant, and inflammatory properties. CBN is known for having sedative, anti-convulsant, anti-inflammatory, and antibiotic properties. CBDV, CBGV, THCV, CGB, etc., all these different cannabinoids, they all have similar and different properties that affect us differently. So what does that mean? Why is it so important for our bodies to be able to communicate with itself? One broad example is when someone smokes weed and their mouth gets dry or cotton mouth, they say, oh, well, the weed made my mouth dry. And it's not the weed making your mouth dry. It's the cannabinoids are allowing your neurological system to signal your brain that your body is dehydrated. Some, like 67% of people go through life chronically dehydrated. You think, how can that be? Well, the answer lies with cannabinoids and your body's neurological signaling. Another example is rest and sleep. It is vital for overall health and cell replication to get rest. Cannabinoids enhance the signaling in your body that tells you that you need sleep, or you are hungry, or the food you just ate is not good for your stomach, and that's what's really making you uncomfortable. One big misconception is that we only use cannabis for a desired euphoric effect, when we need to realize that the real euphoric effect comes from when we are eating healthy, when we are properly hydrated, and when we've had enough rest. And eating healthy means eating food with cannabis in it. Lots of cannabinoids. And as part of your diet. Mouth is not signaling your brain that you're thirsty, then you'll never get hydrated. Or if you don't signal that you need more sleep, you'll never get enough rest. And just getting rest and becoming properly hydrated would have a massive positive effect on people's health around the world. Using CBD and other cannabinoids, we must realize that our bodies are different. We all respond differently to cannabinoids in our own way. A CBD product that works great for one person may not work for the next person in the same way, or may have a completely different effect. If you begin using CBD products, try different brands made from different growers, growing different strands to find one that works for you. Make sure they are good organic products that don't use harmful pesticides and chemicals. I believe that is like whatever you put on those plants is what is going to be in your food. Start small. Use one common side effect of cannabis. It's sleep. If you take too much, you can become sleepy, and that can be bad during the day. but it can help at nighttime. For example, myself, I take cannabis at night. In the evening, I take oil and vaporize some cannabis, and it helps me get a good night's sleep. And that's one of the reasons I use it, is for that effect, is to get rest, because that's very important. And I take it during the day also, but just in really small amounts. Like I have this is Backbone Mountains, and I'm a big fan of them. There's some other good growers up here. Just, but anyway, when I say take, it says right on this bottle, suggested dosage, 1 to 2 dropfuls sublingually as needed. Now, I can tell you, I've never ever taken more than a dropper full of this in a day. And it's more than enough. If I take it during the day, I will literally take this tiny little amount, even like that much, because if I take any more than that during the day, it'll make me sleepy. But at night, I'll take a big dropper full if I want to go to sleep, Okay, on to THC and CBD are two of the most commonly known cannabinoids. THC probably the most famous because it's the only cannabinoid that produces a euphoric or high effect. The interesting fact about THC is that if it's not activated or decarboxylated, it will not produce a euphoric or high effect. In THCA cannabinoid must be heated to a certain temperature, and it breaks down and becomes THC. And that's why people smoke cannabis or baked goods or cook it and make oil, because otherwise you will not get the euphoric or high effect. But it's also like if you made a smoothie, if you just cut a really high THC concentrated flower off a plant and made a smoothie and drank it and didn't heat it up, you would get the cannabinoid effect. Like you would get all those. They say that's actually one of the healthiest ways to use cannabis, is to juice it and not even heat it, and just eat it or drink it naturally raw in smoothies. THC can also produce opposing effects, so it is key to start small. Usually people having adverse effects from THC comes from taking way too much when they don't use cannabis at all, and their body's endocannabinoid system is not activated, and the person may not be used to such a sudden adjustment of nerve function and cause you to be uncomfortable, paranoid, irritable for, in some cases, for quite some time. If the concentrated oils or brownies being eaten can cause irritable effects for, hours. Sometimes I've heard, 12 hours. I've heard somebody one time say they had an adverse effect to taking too much cannabis, so it does happen. And but another reason THC can produce opposing effects is if there are other drugs in your system, like nicotine and alcohol. When I used to drink alcoholically, weed would really mess with me and make me sick, dizzy to the point I never used it. That's it. And I think when our nervous system, I used to drink so much alcohol, but my body, was kind of shut down, and my nervous system wasn't functioning correctly, so I couldn't really feel what I was doing to myself. And when I'd use cannabis, it would make me feel so sick. But I realize now that I think that it was just making me become aware of how sick I really was from the alcohol and the cigarettes too. I think that's really had me very, very sick. But anyway, the crazy reality of THC is that it's been federally illegal, labeled as a Schedule 1 drug for over 100 years, and that renders it illegal for anyone to study, grow, buy, sell, trade, no matter what your state law says. For instance, I have a medical cannabis card issued by the state of Maryland saying I can buy cannabis, but the reality is I'm still breaking federal law when I go to the dispensary and buy cannabis in Maryland, because it's a conflicting. What's going on is you have federal law saying one thing and state law is saying another thing right now, and it's kind of a gray area with THC. I mean, it's, at the end of the day, it's federally illegal still. Like, for instance, in federal law is what's holding back all this information. For instance, the board of directors at Johns Hopkins University in Maryland told the Maryland Cannabis Commission that we would love to do studies on cannabis, but the reality is Johns Hopkins is federally funded and we can't go near cannabis because we could potentially lose our funding. So it's a catch-22. It can't be studied. Like I've said before, if you asked me 15 years ago, I would have said everybody in California making cannabis legal just wants to get high, because if it were all this wonderful things, we'd already know about it, which you can't study it. It's because it's a Schedule 1 drug. So that's basically where THC still stands. A big victory in the battle of our government to allow us to have what our bodies need to be healthy came from the 2018 Farm Bill that allows hemp plants with less than 0.03% THC to be grown and studied. And that's what's allowed. CBD is federally legal. So you can buy, sell, take it from state to state, do whatever. So it has become federally legal. And now I think Johns Hopkins is studying CBD, and they have, since they told the commission that, they have begun different studies on different CBD products. So hemp is now legal. One final thought: the true secret to feeling great and is taking care of every aspect of your health, which is sleep, diet, exercise, and cannabinoids aid with this. I myself personally, I was an alcoholic, basket case for half my life. I always thought there was something wrong with me. I thought it could never be fixed. I thought I could never calm down. And I've been a guinea pig of cannabis. I call myself a guinea pig because there's no real, when I started using this on a prayer, there wasn't as much information, and I didn't understand it. And I thought I thought I could potentially be hurting myself and using it as a crutch. But come to find out, our bodies need this stuff, and they don't work correctly without it. And that's pretty much it. And I don't think there's, and that's why I'm doing this. So thank you very much for listening, and I'm going to keep doing these videos, try to get better at it anyway. So practice makes perfect. So thank you very much for watching, and have a good evening.